In the past 60 days alone, America has added over $1.8 trillion in debt, which is not only more debt than the country added in its first 180 years, but if I wanted to print $1.8 trillion myself, I'd have to get my magic money printer here. This puppy actually fires around 10 $100 bills every single second. I would have to stand here for over 3 weeks doing this until I actually reached $1.8 trillion. So let's dive into the specifics of this US debt spiral. Let's talk about where this debt spiral is going to go, why the volatility is only going to increase from here, and what you can do to protect yourself from the coming debt doom loop. So in the 8 weeks following the United States debt ceiling crisis, we can see that the national debt actually rose by over $1.8 trillion. Yes, you heard that one correctly. That is the equivalent of the debt growing by over $31 billion every single day, $1.3 billion every single hour, or $21.7 million every single minute. Yes, that is exactly what we call the United States debt spiral. So getting a little bit more granular, we can see that in the month of June, we can see the debt grew by over $1 trillion. So the national debt on June 2nd was $31.467 trillion. And by July 3rd, only 32 days later, we can see that national debt actually grew all the way up to $32.4 trillion. So again, that debt is growing by $31 billion every single day. So this is a pretty crazy statistic because it took the United States over 209 years to reach $1.8 trillion of debt. We just added $1.8 trillion of debt in 60 days. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is why Joe Rogan is actually calling America a banana republic. It's because we're piling on all of this debt at literally $31 billion every single day. It's ridiculous.
That love Trump, they feel like this is a witch hunt. And they feel like all the things he's getting indicted for are bullshit anyway. Not only does it not work, but it kind of hardens their position that he's being targeted. And that these are like the actions of a banana republic. You take your political rival and you arrest him. And specifically, you charge him with things that you're guilty of. Like the documents, like the classified documents. Biden's guilty of the exact same issue.
So this is why Fitch, who of course is a ratings agency in America, just downgraded America's debt to a AA rated debt for the first time in over 12 years. So there's a little bit of controversy back in 2011 when S&P, who of course is another ratings agency, also downgraded America's debt from a AAA rated debt to a AA rated debt. Now we're not going to get too granular talking about all of the different corporate ratings for sovereign debt, but all we can say is America used to be rated as the pristine collateral. So that is AAA. AAA is the best of the best. But now we are actually being put in the same bucket as other countries like Argentina or Mexico with much lower rated debt in that AAA rated bucket. And that is simply because look at America's own projections. So this chart here, believe it or not, is actually the US Treasury's own projections of their own debt. They're saying, look, our debt is going to actually be over 400% of our GDP by 2050. That is the government's own admission. And we all know that the government's admissions are typically not even close to the truth. So let's take the US CPI inflation basket, for example. Since 1980, America has actually manipulated that basket on over 12 occasions. And today they're telling you that inflation is around 3%. And they're pretty proud of it, mind you. They're openly saying, yeah, 3% inflation. We've tackled inflation. We've defeated inflation. But the real numbers, we know about the real numbers here on the channel because we talk about them all the time. We know the real inflation is well above 10%. And the government is telling you that inflation is only 3%. So just remember that whenever you hear a government say, yeah, you know, our debt to GDP ratio is going to be around 400% by 2050. It's pretty manageable. Don't worry about that. The real numbers are going to probably be a lot worse than that if we look at the government's own track record. So let's look a little bit more about what is going on today. We can see that the United States government brings in around $3 to $4 trillion in revenue every single year. And today, now that they've raised interest rates faster than any time in history, we can see that what's kind of happening to the US Treasury's interest payments on their debt. So every single year, the US government has $32 trillion of debt So they need to pay down a little bit of the interest payments on that debt. And now that interest rates are up around 4 to 5% in America, what's happening is this banana republic is slowly beginning to crumble, because America is now paying nearly $1 trillion every single year just on the interest payments on their debt. So that means they're not paying down any of their debt. Oh, no, 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 no. They're just paying the interest payments on that $32 trillion of debt. And those interest payments alone are around $1 trillion. So again, if you're only making around $3.5 trillion and the interest payments on your debt alone is $1 trillion, that's Banana Republic territory. You have no chance of paying down that debt. And we haven't even started talking about defense spending and the $160 trillion of unfunded liabilities in America that the US is also going to have to pay in the future. Let's put this US debt downgrade in a little bit more context, and let's compare America to many other countries who have sovereign debt ratings similar to theirs. So, for example, America used to be a AAA rated sovereign issuer. So that simply means that they were the best of the best. They were a AAA. That is the best score you could even hope to get on a school test, okay? AAA is as good as it gets. And we can see here that other AAA rated countries around the world, on average, spend around 1% of their revenue paying the interest payments on the debt that they have. So again, Fitch is saying that they believe America is going to actually have to spend 10% of its revenue on its interest payments by 2025 alone. So this is over 10 times more than any other AAA rated sovereign issuer. Now, we're not going to get too granular into this US debt downgrade. All you need to know is there's around 10 countries around the world with that AAA, top tier rated sovereign debt. So we have countries such as Sweden, Switzerland, Australia, and even Singapore, but America has now been kicked out of the AAA rated sovereign borrowers, and they have now been downgraded to only a AA sovereign rated debt. So America now joins other countries such as New Zealand and the European Union in that second tier, or that AA rated sovereign debt kind of bucket that there is of sovereign nations all around the world. So let's move on. Do our leaders actually have a solution for the debt spiral that we're in? How's America going to pay back this $32 trillion of debt? Well, it's great to see some really good positive thinking coming out of the Biden White House this week, as one of Biden's advisors came out and he actually said the reason that Fitch downgraded America's debt is due to reckless Republican MAGA policies. That's right, he tried to blame it on the Republicans. And Janet Yellen seemed even more confused in this little interview right here.
Overall annual inflation has declined every month for the past year, and our economy continues to grow. In the longer term, the United States remains the world's largest, most dynamic, and most innovative economy, with the strongest financial system in the world. Fitch's decision is puzzling in light of the economic strength we see in the United States. I strongly disagree with Fitch's decision, and I believe it is entirely unwarranted.
Now, I bring up both of these very interesting receipts because I want to make it very crystal clear here on the channel. The reason the United States had its debt downgraded is not due to some reckless MAGA policies ran by Trump, okay? It's not a left versus right thing. It's not the Democrats or the Republicans' fault. It is the state's fault, okay? The fact that the money is broken is the biggest issue of all, okay? Doesn't matter whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. They're never, ever, ever going to stop printing money and stop putting you into endless amounts of debt. We can have a look at this chart right here, and we can see that the debt ceiling has been raised on 78 occasions since the year 1960 alone, and we can see that both the left and the right have both continually raised the debt ceiling, okay? So this is why you hear many Bitcoiners say, if you fix the money, you could potentially fix the world, okay? But what do you think happens? Is there any politicians in America actually trying to initiate a little bit of change? Recently here on the channel, we did talk about RFK and his proposal to potentially back the US dollar by Bitcoin. Considering the United States has $32 trillion of debt, RFK's proposal of potentially backing all of the United States debt with a 1% Bitcoin backing could mean some pretty bullish things for the price of Bitcoin. If you missed our recent video on that one and you want to learn a little bit more on the RFK Bitcoin backed dollar, recommend you guys check out the video right there that I recorded on that one. And if you guys want to learn a little bit more about BlackRock's recent 2022 secret Bitcoin report, where they said the optimal asset allocation for anyone is 85% Bitcoin and only 15% stocks, I recommend you check out the video recorded on that one right there. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next video.